All right, so this is a little touchy topic, but it's something that's been on my mind, something that, I really believe like you got to practice what you preach. So it's something that I have a 13-year-old son. Let me back up. My name is Jamila Parker. I am the preschool district social worker and anti-bullying specialist here in the Early Childhood Center, and then also I am available district-wide. So we have 3 classrooms at Fort Dix Child Development Center on base and 6 preschool classrooms at Fort Dix Elementary School. So if needed, I'm available to them as well. So I make visits on base from time to time as needed. So this topic came up just from things that I've been seeing just over the years, conversations I've had with my son starting back when he was 2 years old, and just the need of it. And we're going to talk about the different things dealing with the body, but then also, and we're going to touch on things of, the potential of sex abuse and all of that, but also bullying. Because when you empower your child has a voice, and that voice can cut down on it would actually intimidate the abuser or the bully, and least likely chance of the child becoming a victim. Just watch this video. Again, so I'm Jamila Parker, preschool district social worker. My background is I've been in Pemberton 12 years. It'll be 12 years actually next month in November. Prior to that, I worked at what was then called Division of Youth and Family Services, DYFS. They have a new name, Division of Child Protection and Permanency, DCP&P. But I was a caseworker. I worked in what they call permanency, so I would put services in place in the homes, and then I finished up and worked in adoption. So I facilitated the adoption of children who were legally free in the state of New Jersey. So let's start off with, what are your concerns? For those who aren't necessarily comfortable with having a conversation with your 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 12-year-old, 16-year-old, what are some of your concerns about having conversations about body boundaries? Any concerns? So
I would say like one of my concerns, my 3-year-old, he really is just anti like any of it. So I feel like maybe I ruined his boundaries because he's like, no kisses. I'm like, I'm stealing them from you. You know what I mean? And I don't want to, like, just hearing that makes me like that. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah, it's not to make you, it's not to judge you or make you feel guilty or anything, but it's just giving us some food for thought. With the boundaries. So he's been a little bit
always like sort of standoffish. You know, compared to my other one, who's like hugs and kisses all over, and he's always like, no kiss, no hug. You know? So sometimes like I'm just stealing them from you, and I'm wondering like, wow, I hate that.
Well, I'm actually going to touch on that, but you can offer some other things like, well, what would you feel comfortable with? Because I don't want to jump ahead of the slides, but that is something. Well, and if there's anything that after I'm done. There's questions, I didn't touch on something, you have a particular like case scenario type of thing, feel free, raise your hand if you want to jot it down, and then I'll come back to it. That's fine. Anybody, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. I have to pause for a second and just say, this workshop is being sponsored by the members of the Pemberton Township Education Association, so the Continental Breakfast are compliments of the PTEA.
PTEA?
So we're going to talk about body parts today in this workshop, establishing trust, body boundaries, modeling, secrets, and then ongoing conversations. And all of it comes together so that your child will be empowered. Okay, so body parts. There's two different schools of thought. There are people who believe that children are too young to know the proper anatomical names. And let's just come up with a cutesy nickname instead. There's some issues with the cutesy nicknames. We want to start as early as possible. So how old are your children when you start telling them, these are your eyes, these are your ears, this is your nose? How old? Do you say anything about their private parts? You do? You have from day one.
I told my son, that is your penis. If anybody touches it, except for mom or dad, or we give permission to the doctor, you say, don't touch my penis. And
Okay.
in my head, how are you going to feel if a 3-year-old boy tells you, don't touch my penis? You're going to be like, whoa, right?
Absolutely. So how many, don't want to shame anyone, how many come up with cute little nicknames instead?
We call penis a wiener, but the boys call it a wiener, but they know penis.
They know it's called a penis, but they call it a wiener. Okay.
I said you had a 13-year-old, so I have the same
Right.
a 13-year-old and a 3-year-old. So trying to talk to one versus trying to talk to the other.
Two different languages, right? Two different languages.
They don't know what it's called, but
So we want to start early on with the proper names. Because sometimes when you go to this, these are your eyes and these are your ears, this is your nose, this is your mouth, this is your weeby, or this is your, it takes away the healthy body image that our children should have. And it makes it more like it's a secretive thing. Now, it's okay to talk about privacy, and that's when you want to go into modesty and all of that. But it's when you start talking about, I'll give an example. There are little girls who go around and consider they're a cookie or a pocketbook. Now, let's say something happens and they have to be interviewed. And they tell, that specialist, oh, Mr. So-and-so, he touched my cookie. And if you go back even before that, even getting to the place of being interviewed, if just telling, coming to school and telling a teacher, Mr. So-and-so touched my cookie. Well, our teachers are educated to teach, not to do this like investigative, thorough, where you're trying to pull out and find out. So, but when you say that, nothing stands out. It's like, oh, okay, or, nowadays, like they kind of a little bit more attuned, like, well, what does that mean? Or let me call Miss Parker and have her come down and find out. My problem with that is I don't ever want to interfere with it because once a child gets asked that question a couple of times, they start to just kind of pull back. And then you don't get the full story of whatever actually did happen. But if they come to school and they're just like, Mr. John touched my vagina, that teacher's going to be like, whoa, let me call Miss Parker. We need to, start the process of doing some things. So there's a difference. So the nickname, no nicknames. When they know the name, because I read that in an article, when they actually know the proper names and then you get to the age where they think it's funny. I have a 13-year-old son. And so the wiener or the other, as long as they know what that real name, what it really is, that's really, but as with them being younger, you really want to refer to the proper anatomical, the part of their body, what it really is. Okay, so establishing trust in themselves, trusting their gut. That's when we start moving into things like we don't want to force them to hug or kiss someone. So you had the question about your son and wanting to hug his sister and his sister not really wanting to hug him. It could be, well, what would you rather? Would you rather give your brother a high five? So you can start off with saying to her, no thank, she can tell her brother, no thank you, but I'll give you a high five instead. Or I'll give you a fist bump instead. but give that power to her, because ultimately we are the boss of our own bodies. And we want to instill that message in them this young, so that if they have that voice, they're speaking that up. Like you said, if you taught your son how to use and so if he screams at someone, that's somebody pulling back like, whoa, he knows that means he's going to tell on me if I go any further. So it's really about helping them to establish that trust. In addition to that, when we force them to hug, to give a kiss to a relative or a sibling or anything like that, if they have a gut feeling, we don't know what that uncle or that aunt could be what feeling they could be causing in them. Like, have you ever had the feeling that something's not right? I can't put my finger on it, but my gut says something's not right. Our children are learning that. So when we teach them to kind of go against whatever they're feeling of like, well, no, go hug. No, it's okay, go. No, go. Stop acting shy. Go. It's sending them mixed messages, and it's actually teaching them to please people. And we don't want to do that. We want to prepare other adults. So you want to prepare the grandparents and aunts and uncles, siblings, these are the conversations that you're having with your child. So you want to prepare them to say, you know what, we're teaching them about body boundary. And we're teaching them to, if they don't want to hug or kiss, that is okay. They'll give you a high five, they'll give you a handshake, they'll give you a fist bump. But what you're going to do, I want you to start asking my child, if it's okay, can I? You want to define the types of people in their lives. So you start with the family, the immediate family. So your children, that's everyone that lives under our roof, everyone that lives with us, that's the immediate family. Extended family, or those family members who don't live with us. So if grandparents don't live with you, uncles and aunts that don't live with you, those are extended family. Then you want to go into friends, and you describe them as people who care about you and who you care about and who you know very well. Those are what we will call friends. Acquaintances are, I know their name and I see them occasionally, but they're just acquaintances. Then you have the teachers and the helpers. So you have teachers in the classroom, you have helpers, firemen and policemen and those folks. And then and servers, those at restaurants. So you want to kind of give them the different categories. And then strangers. And there are people you do not know and you do not ever touch. You do not ever give hugs. You do not ever tell things about you, how old you are, your name. That's how you want to kind of explain the different categories of the people in their lives. The role of doctors and parents. So you talked about it. No one touches you other than when mommy and daddy are bathing you and we're wiping you, we're cleaning you, or when a doctor is examining you, but mommy or daddy is always present. That's something to just kind of keep in mind, so that, because you see the news. You have dentists, you have all the different, and I know for me, when I was interviewing dentists, and even with my son being like, he was probably about 9 or 10, because he was with my family dentist for a while, that was fine. I could be in the room. I'm a little leery of the dentists who say, no parents back here, no parents allowed. And I understand on one hand, they say that parents can make things worse when the children are having their teeth examined. But I'm a social worker, and so my occupational hazard, I'm suspicious by nature. And so I'm just always kind of just questioning, well, why can't I be back there? Nope, this is what I taught my child. So either I'm going to be back there.
If my kid's uncomfortable, I'm going to be there to comfort them.
Right. But there are dentists. There are plenty of dentists out there who do not allow parents to come back in the room with them during examinations.
I'm constantly, I don't recognize that vehicle. Why are you driving down my street? It's a dead end. Who are you?
Yeah. I'm known in the building, and they can have 2 people back there that can vouch for it. What's my nickname, ladies in the building? What's my nickname? Detective, PI. Like, I'm on it. And I'm going to Google, and I'm going to find whatever I can find out when something kind of stirs me a little bit. But we're teaching them how to trust that intuition, trust in their gut. All right, body boundaries. This is their personal space. They are the boss of their body. Whatever the swimsuit area covers are definitely no-nos for anybody else to be touching besides, again, when the doctor is examining them with mommy or daddy present and when mommy or daddy are bathing them. Then I had to go further with it, and I'm like, no one tickles those parts, not even mommies or daddies, because you never know in different situations. So you could probably add something like that. People ought to ask them permission to give hugs or kisses. At school, we just say there's no kissing allowed at school. And I actually go in classrooms and I read a book, and I'll show you the book in a little bit, and it talks about your body belongs to you. And so I tell the kids in the classroom, you have to ask permission if you want to hug or give a friend a high five or a handshake. Because if they don't want to, it's their right. They can say no thank you, and then you just walk away from that. But just, again, just teaching them that and teaching them to respect the answer that they've been given. We want to teach them to assert their wants and needs and desires to the rest of the world. And that starts with being able to assert that to the people that they're around on a regular basis. So we want to model behavior. That will go in with not stealing kisses. And not saying we're going to steal kisses and steal hugs. So you can say, do you really don't want to hug? Or can I give you a high five? Like, start with modeling that, and then model it for the other adults and other people in your lives too, because something that was said to me years ago, and it just kind of stuck with me, more things are caught than taught. So we can teach. But if we're modeling something else, they're going to catch what we're doing and not listen to the lesson that we're teaching. When they see trusted adults yelling and screaming or getting physical with another person, they are actually learning that violence is an effective way to communicate and get what they want. So even with our tone, how we deal with conflict, we want to have a calm, soft facial expression. We want to have relaxed body posture, and we want to have a calm tone of voice. Respect their limits. Do some role play and just say to them, if you don't like something, please stop. I don't like that. And another thing, and they get a kick out of it with me, is I'm like, you got to use your outside voice. And you got to say it really loud. So they'll start off in my office, like whispering it. And I'm like, I need to hear it much louder than that. And so to get a chance to scream inside, they're all for it. Stop, I don't like that. I'm like, and you say that because now it's catching the attention. And this is for even just in the classroom. If someone takes something from them, if someone pushes them, because you're giving them a voice early on, giving them a voice. And then you can say, even if you say, oh, can I give you a hug? And then he says, no, not right now. You may be able to communicate and say, I hear you, and I won't do it out. You let me know when you're okay with getting a hug from me. I know that's kind of like we're giving them that's a lot of power we're giving them. But if they're just, and not even that they're feeling skeevy with you doing it, but have you ever been in a moment of you don't want to be touched? Or am I the only one? Like, just give me all of that space. Secrets. There's no such thing as secrets. So if you want to start using more of the terminology of surprises, because here's the thing about secrets. Secrets are kept forever. Surprises, somebody always finds out because that's the whole point for people to find out. So we don't want to say, oh, let's keep this a secret. Oh, this is going to be a surprise. They'll be trained early on. So if anyone ever approaches them, or keep this, it's just our little secret, that alarm will go off for them. Like, there are no secrets, just surprises. You want to have ongoing conversations as they grow. So I said in the beginning, my son was 2. I'm just going to he was 2, he was in the bathtub, and my mom happened to call. So I'm bathing him, my mom's on the phone, and so he's like pulling, and he says, what is this? And I said, that's your penis. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas. And my mom's like, why are you telling him that? He's only 2. And I said, because I want him to know his proper body parts. I want him to know it. And what I did was then I started building on conversation. And I talked about no one touches them. And then as he got older, age appropriately, then we started having other conversations. And sometimes it was sparked by what I was seeing in the news, or when I knew he was going to get into activities that now I can't be there all the time. So when he started Cub Scouts, then I start adding things to it of nobody touches you, including these people. And then when I start hearing other things in the news, and I started adding no pastor, no preacher, no teacher, like it just kept going and going and going. Like nobody is off limits. But I even started with, mommy and daddy don't tickle you in those areas. We only clean you. That's it. Got to the point he was 8. He was a big time, he still is, lover of Legos. Popped in my head, some other people would know that he loves Legos. Let me add this. Nobody takes your pictures. No one asks you to take your clothes off, and they'll give you a Lego set if you take your clothes off and take a picture. Just random things just was coming, but it just kept going on and on and on. He's 8th grade now. A few weeks ago, when preparing for this workshop, I asked him, I said, how did you feel that I was having all these conversations with you, starting with you when you were younger? And he said, you know what? I'm glad you did, because it doesn't make it awkward now when we have these conversations now. Because before he started middle school last year, I had to add on, if a teacher propositions you, take the F. I'll deal with them. You just take the F. Don't feel pressured that you have to get an A, and by any means necessary, you have to get an A. We start talking about gang violence and gang activity. Started talking about bullying and being a bystander, and how you can go about reporting it, where if you want to stay out of it, your mom's an anti-bullying specialist. I know what to write. We'll come home, we'll do an anonymous letter, I'll include all the points, mail it into the school, to the counselor, so that they're aware. Just continue, just that ongoing conversation. Take from current events that are happening and make them teachable moments, and make it matter-of-factly. Like it doesn't have, I will say, like that night before the first day of middle school, I did sit down because I'm like, I didn't talk about this. So we sat down and have a conversation. But normally it's the car ride, because he can't escape me. He can put those earbuds in if he wants to, but then when I start talking, like he feels no other choice, he has to pull them out and we'll have the conversation. So ongoing conversations, and look for teachable moments. Here are some resources. It's in your handout, but just so you know. So the book, Your Body Belongs to You, is a book that I actually go into the classrooms to read. My personal goal is to try to be in all the classrooms by the end of October, or at least before Thanksgiving break, to have read the book to everybody, every classroom, so all children can hear it. An exceptional children's guide to touch is a little bit, you can really kind of read with your 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. I bought both of those books on Amazon. And then this last one is actually an excerpt from that video, the opening video. Let's talk about body boundaries, consent, and respect. We want to teach them even that terminology of consent. It's a lot going on in the world. A lot going on in the world. Well, thank you very much for coming today. I hope it was beneficial. I'm going to pass around a feedback form as well as certificates.